Hello, welcome everyone. Welcome to Accessible Authenticity. It's a podcast where we dive deep into purpose, a meaningful life, embracing our uniqueness, and empowering you on your journey wherever you are. So, most importantly, take what resonates, leave what doesn't. And finally, we'll have a good time doing this. Today, we are joined by Lucy Lewand. She hosts a bread and breakfast for over 30 years, and she enjoys travel. As you can see, she's in a cruise, and she posts on social media about her travel adventures and her hospitality. Other than that, I would love to pass it over to you, Lucy. Hello. Would you love giving an introduction about yourself?
Thank you so much, Anthony. Anthony and I are in a journey together in many ways of exploring just what you're talking about, authenticity and our gifts to give to the world. And in hospitality, I've been in it for a long, long time. And I was touched by a story. I was touched by an experience about more than 20 years ago. I went to high powered business school, thought I was going to be in business, always knew I was going to be in my own business, but I ended up going back to my small town and helping my family run a bed and breakfast. And, I used to joke with my fellow students, former students, I said, you're all working 60 to 80 hours a week, so someday you can have my life. Anyway, this experience was kind of reaffirmed that in terms of I was in a small business, I had gone to a big time business school, knew I wanted to have my own business, but maybe I wanted to have something big. But I found that so I kind of had a question about my meaning in my life. Was I making a difference? All that kind of thing. I'm just in this small little bed and breakfast. So I went to a bed and breakfast conference. Every industry has a conference. And there was a woman who was kind of a speaker, and she said, at that time, it was just when the internet was just starting. And so that whole thing of technology, interfacing, changing our guests and how we work with our guests, all that. She just spoke to us, and it just spoke to my heart that especially in a bed and breakfast, but in all hospitality, we have the opportunity to touch people with our caring for them and our providing an experience for them. And so ever since then, I thought, oh, yeah, I am making a difference. So that kind of changed my trajectory and made me feel very grateful for the opportunity I had to interact with people on a real human level. I feel like that's something you do too, Anthony.
Absolutely, right? It's something like we've lost in a way, especially with all this
Yes,
technology we were talking earlier too, right? It's like technology is all over the place, but that connection, the element of humanness is almost lost. Like, you go to a grocery store, right? I go to a grocery store and it's just about the exchange, right? And then I have to create these moments of like, oh, how's your day going? It seems like a busy day. Like, even though it's super cliche to say, right? But it's like at least that gets um the conversation flowing. And
exactly.
so one of the things you touched on is that you went to a business school and and then you like gravitated towards the bed and breakfast. So before doing that, were you kind of walk me through that journey a little bit. So like you got out of
Sure,
business school and yeah,
sure. Well, I actually first, kind of my first job out of high school was I worked at a bakery, and I'm a sweets fan, so it
oh,
was a
same year.
big it was a big challenge. I felt like I had really won the lottery after a year of working at that bakery. I weighed the same as when I started because people used to say, "Don't you get sick of all that?" I said, "What?" You get sick of glazed donuts, you move on to Dutch Crunch rolls. You get sick of those. We have so then after that, I joined a small publishing company, and I kind of got moved. Actually, I was really into technology. Was had I have a skill for that, and although most of my friends would be, even you would be shocked at because I'm so technically challenged now. But at that point, I was really good with machines. So I moved around in that company, and I had a mentor that I just really loved, and he was very supportive of me. So I grew a lot in that company. It was a small company, and I started like part time, and I ended up with a staff under me of like 10 people. But it was a small family owned business, and the family had 5 sons. So I knew that my upward mobility was going to be limited. So I was at a turning point in my personal life too. So I moved to Healdsburg, which where my family had just was just starting their bed and breakfast. And I just had this commitment that I wanted to go to business school. I really wanted to be an entrepreneur. I loved small business. I loved business. So, but I had this thing about I had done my undergraduate all part time while working. I was always working. And so I never really had that college experience except for my first year. And so I had this commitment, though, that if I was going to invest in going to business school, that I wanted to be in one of the top 10 schools. That was just a big thing to me. And so I applied, I didn't get in. So I moved to Healdsburg, which is where I live. And I took calculus and I tried to get a better grade on the entrance exams. And anyway, I finally got into UCLA. And at that time, it was, I don't know, number 6 or whatever. And during that 2 years, I just went hog wild on the whole. Like, I lived in the graduate dorms. I did everything there was available to do. I met the president of Sony and, did all this stuff and really, really got a good exposure um, to what kind of big business was. And during that time, my friend and I started an entrepreneur association, and we started like this venture proposal competition. And we had so much fun. And I entered that, and I won second the first year and first the second year with a good team at UCLA. They teach teams. And then after that, I worked for HBO, which I loved, but it was very competitive. And then I met who isn't my husband now, and he was from Scotland. So I moved to Scotland for a while, well, always with the intention I was going to go back to the US and start my own business. But I ended up going and working for a big 8 accounting firm. And that was quite an experience for someone that's entrepreneurial. Talk about like rigid. Anyway, I
Right.
remember walking into the partner's office, my boss, and he said, "Yeah, if you play your cards right, you can be a partner in 13 years." And I'm like, I mean, I didn't say that, but I was like,
Yeah.
like it was just like, you know, shocking to me, like just that whole concept. Anyway, so I did not stay there very long. And my husband and I ended up um, moving to Phoenix, and we had an auction house. He's an antiques dealer. So I was in the auction business for a while, and then we moved back to Healdsburg and had an auction business there, which is side note. I am an auctioneer now, and I do a lot of charity auctions. My goal is to raise $1 million for nonprofits, and I'm about 3/4 of the way there. So that's always
Wow.
fun. Yeah, that's fun. I'm not emphasizing that in my life right now. But anyway, and then alongside of having a business with him, I joined my family business. And then my parents got to a point where they weren't working as much. And so kind of became mine. And just throughout that long tenure of taking care of guests, and, I think like resilience, creativity, wearing all the hats. It's really positioned me for what I'm doing now, which is working with hospitality businesses to improve their service culture in their organizations. My housekeeper stayed with us for over 30 years. We didn't have a lot of turnover. We were known for like crazy packages, like, getting over the breakup package with ice cream and a book on, getting over breakups, just crazy stuff. And I'm a firm believer that, for example, in the economy we're in right now, which is very uncertain, that's an opportunity for us to shine our light on our own uniqueness, both as people and as businesses. So it's very exciting.
Wow. And so many threads that I can pull on from there, Lucy. So like one of the first things that really like comes to light is, you've had this entrepreneurial spirit from the very like get-go, and that took you towards a business school, UCLA, you got into HBO, and then that experience, and then you kind of flipped it over. You went into accounting, something completely like the opposite. It's all about
Right.
numbers, 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 numbers. Yeah. I'm glad you didn't wait 13 years
Yeah, no,
to become partner at that
I
place.
was in the consulting side, but it's still, it's just very, my God. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Like
very rigid.
I always like when I got into implementations, like tech implementations, uh that was one of the things where I could see myself being in that grind essentially, like climbing the corporate ladder, and that's the life that I bought in as well, right? It's like the American dream, and I was in the U.S. for a while
Exactly.
too, actually, like for 7 years, and huge thing there too. Yeah, I mean, I bought into that, and then slowly but surely, I started to realize, my why am I like climbing this, right? As opposed to something like, is this something that I actually wanted, right? So that was huge. Like I'm glad I also got to figure that out. So we have that in common. Like yeah, we didn't just like we didn't just like stick that course. Like even though it was something that wasn't necessarily aligned, it was very much needed as part of the journey. And then yeah, and then you talk, yeah, like I love having conversations because of this. I didn't know you're in the auctioneer kind of like side as well. So that's like beautiful. And yeah, and then like finally with this hospitality piece, right? So with the hospitality piece, then what do you see being like the like challenge right now in the hospitality side?
Two things. One is back to the uncertain economy and the fact that there's, people I live kind of in the San Francisco Bay Area, so I'm kind of lucky because even if people aren't traveling from abroad or even very far from home, I'm close enough I live in the wine country about an hour north of San Francisco. So these people will travel, but there's just a fear that I feel like among, fear for people's jobs, fear economic uncertainty, fear of travel a little bit. So that's like a challenge. The other challenge is this back to the tech thing. You know, I love doing my TikToks, my social media stuff, because it's like just what you said about the grocery store. One of my TikToks is on don't go through the self checkout. You need to talk to other humans. Because my husband's very guilty of he'll be on this whole cruise. He probably won't talk to anybody but me though for a week. Anyway, he's not a social person. Anyway,
Well, you
but
got to put him in like scenarios, where he has to talk to someone.
like one time we were on a cruise and he came back and he said, "Oh, I met this couple. This couple said, 'Oh, you're fun. Let's get together for drinks.'" And I said, "So are we?" And he goes, "No, I'm not going to meet up with them." I mean, anyway, he cracks me up anyway. But, I'm hearing just a lot of challenges for hospitality in terms of the tech stuff. Like people, all of us want that whole check in and check out to be very efficient. So we have contactless, all these ways to not interface with other people. And yet, I think, especially in this kind of climate of kind of chaos almost, we just need to feel a part of a tribe. We need to have the human connection in order to grow as people and be the amazing humans we all are. So I think it's a lot about just what you said, that genuine connection where you're at the grocery store. I went to the grocery store not that long ago. The guy never looked at me, my checkout guy. I even said, "How's it going?"
Yeah.
He never looked at me. And I was just shocked. And it's funny because back to kind of history, I live in a small town and that grocery store used to, it's a corporate grocery store, but it had the same people. Now you don't know there's different checkers every week anyway. It's just I don't know what's happening, but that is a challenge for hospitality and for service. And I think it's interesting that sometimes we equate good service with good hospitality, and there's definitely a link. But good service is kind of transactional, like, and we kind of expect it. I give you money, you give me the service, and we're kind of even. Whereas hospitality is what you're bringing to the world, Anthony, like that generosity of spirit. I'm human, you're human. Let's see where we meet and see where we can connect as people. So, and that's why I love hospitality, because you have that opportunity all the time and you can create those opportunities.
Yeah, wow. Like, one of the things that you mentioned before we got started is like you grew up with like talking on the phone, right? For example, and I'm in a way like envious of that, right? Because when technology like for me, for example, technology came in my life, fortunately, not too, I wasn't too young. Like I had a computer, but we didn't really have internet until like I want to say like 7, 8 years old. And then even then it was like dial-up internet, right? So like, yeah, could barely do anything at that point. And that in a way like allowed me to connect with like other kids outside, like play outside a lot more. And slowly but surely as I got cell phone, like, YouTube and all this stuff, like even like coming to college, I started to lose the element of being able to have a conversation. It's just being able to have that like a conversation. So, and a lot of those ways, like, there is a little bit of envy, like, wow, if I grew up in that time, I wouldn't have these struggles. However, I guess it is how we overcome these challenges that make life interesting as well. One of the things that you mentioned was like among the two challenges that you mentioned there, one was the uncertainty, right? The unknown. And that is a huge, huge piece of life today. And one of the key things I picked up was you said it was like this uncertainty is an opportunity to display our uniqueness and how we can cater to our gifts to the world. I'm paraphrasing there a little bit.
Yep.
What is your relationship to the unknown? It sounds like you've moved, like you are in a place where it's an opportunity. Was that always the case?
Well, I mean, to get philosophical about it a little bit, it's like we're
Yeah,
always
let's
in the
get philosophical.
it's like we never know. We're in this moment, and now we're in another moment, and now we're in and we cannot predict that what next is going to pop up in front of us. And as humans, we're always trying to control things, and when we really can't. I think always bringing yourself back to who you are as a person, what your gifts are, to share with the world and strive to do that. Of course, I feel like we're kind of in a divisive world right now too. So there's people that I when I was very active in my town, which I still am sort of, but I'm not in a leadership role anymore. But we used to, like, if let's say like parking was an issue, then we would, let's say business owners, the Chamber of Commerce, the city government, people that cared would sit around a table and kind of come up with ideas. And now it seems like, no, I'm right, you're wrong. It feels like it's very divisive rather than collaborative, into the more collaborative way of life.
It's
So,
more
and
natural too, right?
that's where I see the opportunities are too. If we can, have conversations, I'd call them courageous conversations where you are opening yourself up, and which I know you do a lot in all of your work, and being vulnerable in the idea that that way you're going to have a more genuine, more meaningful connection with somebody else, or with, the people that are following you, listening to you, working with you. And like business wise, I just think that, especially because I'm not in the corporate world, I'm in smaller arenas, smaller businesses. And I think we all have the opportunity, back to opportunity, that we can, like, for example, if I've gone through a lot of, because I am older, I've gone through a lot of cycles of economic uncertainty, and people behave in certain ways, but it's also an opportunity to get creative, to show why you're different, and to not really listen to all that, because when you're in a smaller business, which I've mainly been in, you're not you are vulnerable to what's going on, but you have the ability to be more nimble, to pivot, to be more creative, all sorts of things. I mean, if you're selling like a service or a thing, what are your unique things that you can broadcast out in the world? How can you know, stand out? And I think positivity, of course, and optimism is a way to stand out too in this climate that we're in.
Mm-hmm. And this piece on uniqueness, a lot of people are afraid of being themselves.
That's true.
Why, right? Like what prevents
Yeah,
them
exactly.
from being themselves?
And also that, like, I was just on a meeting earlier, and this other woman who's actually even older than me, and she goes, "Why do I keep comparing myself to somebody else?" Like as if it matters nowadays. I don't know. She was going to the gym and she was comparing herself to some like muscle bound young person. Like, why would you compare? Just kind of craziness.
Yeah.
And that keeps us stuck, keeps us stuck.
Yeah. Comparison is huge, right? There's this quote, right? It's like comparison is the thief of joy. I have had an added version of that too, which is like if comparison is the thief of joy, then anticipation is the thief of living in the moment.
Yes.
And that's something that you were talking about, right? That at the end of the day, we only do have this moment. And something that I've struggled with too is like I'll create these plans, right? Sometimes it's like 5, 10, 20, 30 years down the line too. And I'm like, yes, okay, this is a meaningful
This
life.
is my path.
This is
I'm
my path.
going for it.
Yeah, this is it, right? Yeah. Yeah. Like within 6 months, like I'm gonna get to like 50K a month. I'm gonna have like the house, right? I'm gonna get married, like, and then I'm just gonna keep building multiple business from there, be it like money, house, all this, right? Like there's these things that I've like set in course. And then I have this challenge between, okay, like I'm going to continue doing this. And then 6 months down the line, or maybe 3 months down the line, I'm like, hey, do I, do I still want that 50K a month? Like, do I need it? Right? Maybe I can do like 20K a month, right? Why, why do I need that? Right?
Right.
So I find myself in this challenge of both like being in the moment and just experiencing and enjoying life as is, but also knowing that, hey, I have this vision, right? And I got to move towards that. Like there's a community that like, we've all like decided, let's say, like this is the direction that we're going to move in. How do you find that balance?
I was
Or
to
are you
say,
just like one or the other?
no, I was going to say, because I think that both the program you and I are in together, and then other things that I've been in and am still in, that whole thing about, this is, I'm getting really out there here, woo woo land,
Let's
but
go. Yeah, this is part of
our
it too.
thoughts,
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
thoughts and our feelings are just like, it's we don't control them. We have they influence us so much and we believe them. And it's like the old, if I tell you not to think of a red car, what does your mind do? It thinks of a red car. And there's just, we do not control them. And they come, and a lot of them, I mean, I'm really into habits and all this stuff. A lot of them are just like years and years and years of just habitual thinking. And they say, I think we have 60,000 thoughts a day, and 85% of them are negative, and some other huge percentage of them are habitual. Like we thought them yesterday, the same things. And for me, I think I mentioned that I like sweets. I think, oh, here I am, however many years old I am, and I'm wasting my time thinking about, when am I going to have dessert on this ship? Am I going to, I know the sweets aren't, I mean, back and forth, when I could be using that time and energy to be creating something or connecting with someone, or, just going after our dreams. And, I am also one that if you have the intentionality for your 50K a month or your 20K a month or whatever it is, that you couldn't really imagine that if it wasn't right there ready for you to take. But it's sort of like that weight loss journey. We have incredible power as human beings to make what we think into reality. But the reality of our physical human mind body thing that we're in is that in order to lose X amount of weight, you need to take certain actions, and you probably are not going to lose 30 pounds in a week. Just not going to happen. So it's kind of that balancing the reality of the physical that we live in with the power of what we have as part of this energy field called the universe to connect into that and go for anything we want. But I guess what I'm saying really about that whole understanding and being able to get to who you truly are, which is peace, love, and an amazing energy that's part of the whole universe, and aligning yourself and your actions with that means that you're not really making a choice. And the more you're aligned with that, the more possibility there is. And, maybe there's some people that do want to sit and reflect, and that's their path and their in life. But from what I know of you and for me, I just know I need to go for it. I just need to go for it to be as authentically me and my gifts that I have to share with the world. I'm older, a lot older than you, but it's now or never. And sometimes I do think, oh, I should just rest and relax. I could retire, could be retired, and just go on cruises, not worry about any of this.
Yeah. Well, hey, also, like, I am wearing a mask, right? So I'm also a lot older. Oh, I'm just kidding. So that's actually so like that's a great point you just made too. Like, you're like retired. I can just chill. A lot of people, like, let's say, in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, right? It's this thing of like, hey, once I get to retirement, that I'm just going to chill. Right. So yeah, why aren't you just like chill? I mean, like, you are on a cruise, that's sweet, but you're also here on this call as well, right? Like,
Right.
exploring these topics too.
Yeah. For me, I do sometimes think about it. But then once I sold my business, I thought, I have more to give. Oh, there's things that excite me. And I also would like to earn money to share with the world, share things that I'm passionate about and travel more. Some for myself, some for others. What do my friends say? Spend, share, and save. That's what they want money for. And in our program, we suggest to think deeper than that about why we're doing what we do. But I just think that for me, most likely, even though I don't financially have to, I think for me as a person, just who I am, I have to. And the other thing about, they talk about balancing your life. I think that younger people have this idea, oh, I should spend this much time on my family, this much time on work, this much time on my health. And sometimes it's not going to be in balance. You're going to forsake some things. Like, for example, I don't have any kids, but a lot of my close friends do. So basically, I just said, like, in terms of our friendship and our interaction, okay, great. I'll see you in 16 years. It's like, I'm here for you. We'll talk, but I know you're going to be busy because you're focusing on your family. And so there's kind of phases of life as well. I don't know.
Hmm.
What do you think about that?
Yeah. It's yeah, balance is not 50-50.
No,
That's
it's
that's for
not.
sure.
Like, especially if you're trying to build a business, now it's kind of like all out in some ways, but you have to maintain your health. Like, you have to get enough sleep. Otherwise, you'll fall apart.
Yeah, yeah. And that was a super huge lesson for me too. So like in 2024, right, I went in on like my theme for the year. So I do this thing. I've done it since 21, where I have a theme for the year, right? And the theme for 24 was all in. I was just going all in, like all in on business, all in on trying to figure life out, I guess, in a way too. But like mostly the business piece. Like I've always wanted to be in business and be an entrepreneur, but I got sidetracked and did corporate for 7 years. Right. And there I was. And so much had happened, right? Like in that 1 year. Like for example, I moved 7 different like apartments, and then
Well,
6 of those were in 3 months. Yeah, it's like I was just like, yeah, constantly just moving. Yeah, yeah. And it went to the point where I was like okay with it, right? Like I remember telling people like, oh yeah, I'm moving. They're like, what the fuck are you doing moving again? Like how are you doing this? And then I remember at that point I was like, oh, I I don't mind it, right? And that was like a really huge thing to like, wow, I got accustomed to it. Like all this happened and I essentially just let go, right? And I was like, okay, what the truth might be about me building this business or in who I am, like I'm ready to see that. And by the end of the year, right, I was, like the program that, you're talking about that we're both like part of, like I applied a lot of those principles and I was able to get my first client and I took her through her journey as well. And it was a lot for me to do, but it was like amazing to see. And by the end of it, by like December, I went on a holiday and then when I came back, I realized I was burnt out,
mhm.
right? And
You
the
got it
thing
all in too much.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, right. Yeah, so there's absolutely that point, right, where it's like, okay, this is like a lot, right? And I don't know, like I do think it depends on every person. Like this is one of those lessons I feel like you just gotta go and figure it out on yourself, like where that threshold is, like where you're not burning out, because that's something I'm like very deeply passionate about as well. Like a lot of like especially the corporate world, people are suffering from burnout. Like they're just just grinding it out. And they don't even know why. Obviously, there's bills to pay. Yes, and I totally understand that, but that cannot be the only thing because it's showing now, right? Like depression is through the roof. I don't know the numbers, but I know yeah, it's through the roof. People are not really engaged at work too, and then that shows up in like conversations, like going to a grocery store, for example, right? It's like, oh yeah, it's just very transactional, right? The so that element is like is super important to understand, like how much is just enough, and then moving past that slowly and surely, because that's evolution. That does go back to what you're saying, right? Hey, like you don't have to do this, right? But it's just the person that you are. You have so much more to give, and yeah, yeah, it's the experience of life. I think that's one of the things I've come to is the reason I do what I do is so that I can experience. Like, I can experience the 20K months or 50K months and what that's like. I can experience what it's
Yes.
like for people to transform, right? Like for them to go from being stuck, in their job and then to have this burst of energy, right? Like, oh, I'm going after something that I truly want to, and it's aligned with who I am.
Yes. A couple things you brought up in that. One is that whole burnout thing for people. I think that's back to my just such a belief in hospitality is that we have to practice hospitality on each other no matter what business we're in. We have to kindness and generosity is it's kind of a two-way street. I mean, one of the things that I think is that when you give genuine hospitality, and that could be just as a friend or, in your place of business or whatever, then you receive like so much from that generosity. And granted, there you're going to have people where you just can't kind of touch them, but a kind word and just with people that are in that burnout and trying to reach a place like, well, what can I change about my daily routine or my daily how I'm looking at things that would lift me up rather than bring me down. And I think meditation or mindfulness practices really help with that, but it's just also just I think I one of the things I did after I sold my business was I became a happy for no reason certified trainer. So when I did all this stuff with happiness, and one of the biggest learnings that I had in that was one of my best friends, she's a glass half empty type of person. And my whole life we've been friends, and she hates it when I say this, for over 50 years anyway, or 50 years plus. She goes, "Don't ever say that out loud." But anyway, I all my life, with my friendship, like I just thought if there's just I could just figure out how to make her happy, how to have her be happy, And I think, and then all of a sudden in this course, they said it's genetics. Like there's people that just are not happy. They're chemically not happy. And like it just for an optimist like me, it just like blew me away. But it also helped me to understand. But then, we have the environment, our circumstances, and our genetics. But we have control over the environment and our genetics. And the circumstances are the one thing that we always think are going to lead to happiness. But, so how can we set up our environment and how can we make a choice over our genetics to be happier?
Over our circumstances, I guess, right? Not genetics, because like genetics.
Chances are people think, oh, if I get a new car, I'll be happy. If I find, like you said, I thought I should have a job and a wife and a this. I never wanted a house. And, I even asked one of my coaches, is there something wrong with me that I don't care about ever having a house? In fact, I live in one now and I look out in the side and I go, oh, that looks like a yard that I have to take care of. I just hate having a house. But, and sometimes, I mean, there's something wrong with me. But anyway, like somehow when I have this Victorian mansion, and I lived there, it wasn't my house, it was my business. So I didn't have issues with it anyway. But anyway, I think that whole thing that we if we're mindful, we can make different choices that are more aligned, even though we can't control our thoughts and our feelings, but we can like be aware, that whole being aware and then kind of setting up. There's a great book. I think it's called The Power of Flexing. Anyway, it's about ways you can do these little experiments to kind of improve your performance and your life and your way of thinking. And what I like about it, not like, oh, you're going to learn the answer. It's more like experimenting, getting feedback, honing the experiment. And it feels like, I think sometimes back to your comments of like, you're going this path and then something comes up and you think, oh, maybe this isn't the right path, but this is making it, or like with eating, it's like I got to be perfect starting tonight on forever. It's like life is not like that. Life is little experiments, even though we don't think they're experiments. We think we're just living our life, but we can look at it as that. I'm on a path and it has different ways of going. And as long as I keep going, I mean, I
Yeah,
think we got to
that's
keep going.
keep going. Absolutely. Oh,
Keep
gotta
going.
keep going. Gotta keep going. Yes, like
Got to keep going.
resilience is. Yeah, if it wasn't for resilience, I would not be like where I
Yeah,
am today. Like, yeah, like I love that it's such a it's a trait that it's and the beautiful thing is it's something that can be cultivated, right? It's not
it
necessarily like
can be.
someone
Yeah,
just has it, right?
definitely.
Yeah, because a lot of people I feel like go into that. I remember I was in like a similar, I was like in a fixed mindset before where I was like, oh, this is kind of just who I am, right? Like let's say for public speaking, for example, right? I was absolutely fucking terrible at public speaking, right? Like I couldn't even I was like sixth grade, I had like this competition like this contest where we had to like read through an elocution and I was like stammering through it and I couldn't finish it, right? And then now here I am, like I'm in like Toastmasters, I'm the president of it. Like it's just mind-boggling. And all of that was because at some point in college, I learned about growth mindset that there is like I do have flexibility in terms of like like beliefs, right? Like, oh, I'm a terrible public speaker. Like, oh, maybe I'm a learning public speaker. And then
Right.
going through the actions slowly but surely, and then it's like, wow, I can do this. Like, and so and all of that was because of, gotta keep going kind of thing, right? Um, and I do have like, oh, like one of the in life now, one of the meaningful parts of what makes a meaningful life is having kids. And when you said like you don't have kids, that was such a point of intrigue. So like how do you look at it now? Like is it something you
Sure.
regret? Is it something you're thankful
Uh,
about?
a couple things. Let me just go back to what we were just talking about for a second because it came to mind two quick stories.
Hmm.
One is in terms of that, like flipping the switch. I'm the auctioneer at a big annual gala charity auction. And they only have, I don't know, maybe between 5 and 10 items. And it's their biggest fundraiser. And I'm standing up there, and there's 200 people on stage. And there was this fellow that was supposed to be helping me. And I had done this auction quite a few times, but this was like a new person that I was working with, and we were supposed to work together, and he was not helping me, right? And I had this feeling like I'm up there, I don't know, we're on item number 3 or 4, and I just had this feeling of, I can't do this. I just can't do this. Then I thought, I have to do this. Like, this is it. This is for them. This is it. I can't do it tomorrow. I have to do it right now. So, like, I don't know how, first of all, I don't know exactly how I got to that, like, I can't do it, but my confidence, everything was undermined. And then I look around, I go, I'm it. So, I turned the corner and, finished the auction. We did great and all that. And then another thing was, I had a coach at one point, and she said she worked with a client, and it was about a golf game. For this client was planning on winning this golf game, and he was down, I don't know how many strokes. And I think it was a multi-day, like a lot of them are. And she said, no, he's going to win the tournament. The score just hasn't caught up yet. And that whole thing of, no, we're gonna win this thing. The score just hasn't, like, if we're looking at the number of followers on social media or everything, it's all going to happen. It just hasn't quite, the visual things of the measurements haven't quite caught up yet. We are the people that are in that. So back to the kids thing. No, it never was. Okay. So two things. One is, I came from a family where, and I kind of, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, but I always feel like in a mom and dad situation, there's the mean one and the nice one, right? So my first husband, I would have had to be the mean one. And I did not want to be the witch. I didn't want to be the witch. So it was weird. And then finally, my husband that I have now, he's the mean one. And I'm like, yay. He didn't he didn't want to have kids. I was never that invested in having kids as terms of defining myself as a person or a woman or any of that. So what I've done in my life is I have, I don't know, 13 godchildren, and I just have the time of my life with them. My youngest are in their 20s. I do have some grandnieces that are, 10 and just turned 13. So, it's kind of, in fact, my husband, as you might have noticed, he's not really into all these things. So my youngest godchildren graduated from high school, and he was like, good, now those kids are out of my life. And I go, no, we have the grandnieces. They're like, you know, they can start coming to our house. They're like 4 and 6. He's like, okay, we have Camp Lucy at my house, so we have a lot of fun. And I just, I kind of get a lot of the joy and none of the real sorrow. And, I have another quick funny story. Hope my goddaughter never, my oldest goddaughter, she was just a real jerk through her adolescence. I mean, like, real jerk. And her mom is my close friend. And it was so bad that I had to make a choice between her mom and her as far as, like, sides, shall we say, or just who I was going to support. My goddaughter was so wrapped up in herself that she never noticed that I sided with her mom. So she thinks I'm the most wonderful godmother, and there was, like, at least almost 10 years of her just I gave her presents and all that stuff, but I was totally there for her mother and not anyway.
Hey, that's effective communication, right?
Yeah, exactly. I just like, oh yeah. No, it just, but she was so, she was in those teenage years where you wouldn't reach out to an older person. She might have, but anyway, it's just, but I have wonderful godchildren, and we've had a lot of fun times. So, it's like there's a lot of things like I mentioned the house and the kids and stuff like that. Sometimes I think, well, what do I do in my life since I don't have any of the kind of regular trappings of what a successful person, family person would be. But anyway, I
And
have a lot
hey,
of fun.
you're that, right? That because it's almost like a prescription, right? It's like, oh, okay, here's a prescription to how you should live your life, right?
Exactly.
And I maybe like for a lot of people it works. But I'll say this, when in 2020, like the pandemic and stuff, right? Like I was going through that checklist, right? I got the amazing degree. I got the job too, like and in the US I was an international student, so I made my parents proud. I started making like money that I've never seen before, and I was getting, like better cars, better apartments, talking to more women. Like actually like that one slowly started declining in that time. And I just found myself in this space. I'm like, okay, I have kind of two more things to do. One is actually, yeah, two, which is one is buy a house, and then the other one is get married and have kids. And I was like, well, I've done like 80% of it already, and I keep being more depressed and more miserable. What are the odds that these next two things are going to just completely shift it? And uh the voice that was telling me like, oh, it'll absolutely change is the 80/20 rule, right? So I was like, oh, like the 20% will make up for all the 80%. And I was like, I don't know, maybe not. Like the one good thing that came out of the pandemic was I had the moment and the time to just stay still.
Yes.
And that just gave me the time. I was like, okay, so even if I wanted to do the next two things, I can't do it right now. So anyways, I have
Right.
to like sit with myself. And that was a gift. I know we had a lot of like terrible things happen during that time. I accept that, I acknowledge that. But the beautiful thing for me that happened was I was able to take that time to sit and be like, okay, is this what I want? And it was a resounding no at that point in time. It's like I want to consciously, if I do want to get the house, if I do want to get married and do want to have kids, I want it to be something like a conscious decision that's made, as opposed to something that's just been prescribed for me. And that really
Right.
goes back to what you were saying about the experimentation piece of life. And that's such a huge takeaway for me too, Lucy. Like it's like, yeah, we have these goals, we have these visions, and we move towards them. But if you don't make space for the experiments and the things that quote unquote go wrong, which is like not, yeah, it's not really, right? It's how we perceive it. That it's like a life well lived, and at the end of the day, who cares, right? Like if someone like is not making $1 million, if someone isn't having kids, like as long as they're happy. Because
Right.
spoiler alert, I've heard a
Absolutely.
lot of times, even people get married, have kids and stuff, and as you mentioned, like yeah, kids are gone. Like oh, thank God.
One of my girlfriends said every once in a while she'll go, I forgot to have kids. We have a lot of jokes about it. But it's interesting because it is, especially at my age, my era, you know, it was still very much what a woman was kind of supposed to do, or that was your fulfillment in life, a lot part of it. And now I think it still is, but it's, people are having kids later, and it's just an interesting thing that, yeah, like you said, a conscious decision, or at least a conscious decision to go in that direction. But what I was going to say about both of those was, our resistance to things is like an opportunity. And that whole, I hate that saying of you got to get uncomfortable with being uncomfortable, but there is a lot of truth to it in terms of those things that we're kind of avoiding, even though in our heads that'll make our life better. And we're so used to the discomfort that we live in already. We're just used to it. And it's almost like we're afraid of whatever that discomfort or even the freedom that a different way of life would bring for us. And that's what I think is partially what I'm trying to get over is like your fear of public speaking. Like you could say that as an identity and keep it and you'd be uncomfortable, but then taking it on as a challenge of no, I'm going to change it to I'm a speaker that's learning how to be a better speaker. I'm already a speaker. I'm going to learn how to be a better speaker. But it's hard. It can be hard. Adopting new habits, changing our ways of thinking. Yeah, it's challenging.
And to switch gears a little bit here, I would love to hear about your thoughts on luck. One of the things that I remember you mentioning is you're a lucky person, right? That's like thing like you get the lottery, like you're always winning. Can you talk about can you talk about luck?
Okay. So this one day, I don't know if you're referring to this. So this one day, it was, a day when my end was successful, but it wasn't financially successful all the time. COVID was very challenging. But anyway, so this one day, and actually my godchildren were visiting me. This one day I woke up and I said, okay, the old affirmations, money is coming to me now. What money is coming to me now? Serving breakfast and everything, and the phone rings and I answer the phone and they say, what's your favorite radio station? I go, KZST. They go, you've just won $100. I go, man, this intention thing really works. And so I got the kids together. I thought, we got to go down and get our money. So we went down to get the check. And then when I got back, in the mailbox, there was this check from the state. And it was for, I think, $18.70. And that's when I said, the intention's got to be a little more expansive and a little more specific. But I guess what I think our intentions make our luck. And I really believe that everything is available right in front of us. We just don't see it. And that's what all of this growth and opening your mind and all of that is like, yeah, it's all available to me. And it's really available to me right now. It's just I've got all this in front of me that's keeping me from having it.
Do you have
But
any
I
tips?
swear to God, I'll tell you one other story. This gal, I went to a workshop and it was, your life purpose and all this stuff. And the last day of it, we had to draw these pictures. And like one of my intentions was I was going to have a driver, instead of driving around it. I was in LA and I grew up in LA, so driving is a really big part of your life. And then I was also gonna have a Lear jet, and I don't know, a few other things. So I went from that conference, I was going to a bed and breakfast conference, and they were about 60 miles apart. So I go, man, I looked into everything. It wasn't when we had Ubers, and I looked into renting a car. I looked into, aren't there any buses from here to there? All the stuff. Finally, the hotel said, oh, well, we'll arrange for a driver. So the next day I get in and here it's this town car, and this guy had driven around the president of Mexico and all this stuff. Anyway, I go, wow, this is pretty amazing. I have a driver. And then at the conference, I won this big, giant basket of stuff. And I'm walking down the hallway, and when my friend says, "Oh, how's it going?" and I go, "It's going great. I got this big basket, but I don't know how I'm going to get this on the plane." I mean, it was huge. And she goes, "That's okay. Just come with me on my jet." So at that point, I just go, it's all possible. I don't have to have my own jet. I can go in my friend's jet. It's like, anyway, I just am very, like, if I say, like, for example, on this cruise, last night I didn't go, but usually I go to the spa has like a little raffle right at the beginning of the first day of the cruise. And I've won the highest one on that. I win all sorts of raffles, all that stuff, all the time. So it's just very,
Yeah, I mean that's
very,
beautiful. Like
very fun.
the
But it's
intentionality of
also
it.
about intention. A lot about
Yeah.
intention.
Yeah. And hey, that's such a fun way of living too, right? It's like, hey, like you have this, it seems like there's like you have this identity now. Like I just like win things, right? Like you're talking about, yeah, like you just like win raffles and stuff. And like, yeah, I don't need a jet. Like I don't need a jet. Like I have my friend's jet, right? And
Right.
that's so beautiful
It's
that
like in terms of getting that, not to be married with like for you with kids or with like maybe having I have a lot of friends, they really wanted kids, but they couldn't get it in the normal, natural way. So they figured out other ways, being open to ways of having what you want. that may not necessarily be the way that you kind of imagined it. That there's other ways of having your intentions turn out. So
And
being
like,
open.
do you have tips for people on how they can be more open to like like for their own blocks? Yeah, yeah, they're not able to see it. It's right in front of them. But yeah, do you have
Yeah.
any tips
Well, I
there?
think for me, this tiny habits way of life is and experimenting. It's like, for example, they say like um, the way you write your goals and stuff. For example, you want to write a book, so you can turn that into, you're becoming a writer or whatever. But instead of saying, "Yeah, I'm going to write a book this year," you kind of say, "Okay, I write 100 words a day," or when I wake up, you do it like the James Clear, the Atomic Habits. I'm big on him. So you make it so you leave out your pen and paper, and before you leave your bedroom, you write 100 words or one page or whatever it is, 5 sentences. And then you just build incrementally, the old 1%, it's compounded. There's the British cycling team. They were terrible. I mean, just terrible. And they got this coach and they tried to tweak all the areas of their life, of their team, the equipment, their mental health, their physical. Tried to improve just by a tiny bit. And it was profound. They were cycling champs for, I don't know, 7 out of 10 years or something like that. So I just think that that is just that incremental thing. And then the building openness really is, reframing, restoring all those kind of habits that of being very intentional about what the kind of life you want to have. So, you know, and I think back to your
Yeah.
work, that's being authentic is a really big part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I it's totally important what we need today, especially yeah, in the unknown. That's how we can identify. Yeah, that's how we can identify ourselves, right? And know that we are part of the whole, but are also unique elements
Exactly.
of it. And one of the beautiful things, yeah, like like the two things that can really help people here are the tiny habits and being open, right? And then hey, they can too, like get on their friend's jet as well. So you'll hear it,
It was
you'll hear it here
hysterical.
first.
Well, she was so funny because she hadn't been born into that. She married into it. She goes, "Yeah, I went from one Gulf Stream to another kind of Gulf Stream."
Hey, that's amazing. And from like this your among the like multiple businesses that you are doing, which is the one that you are focusing in on?
Right now, I see myself as a powerful voice for small business and hospitality to create like remarkable service cultures that will enhance this world as a caring, kind place. And, the way I'm doing that is through coaching and, I have a service kind of course. I can do habits, I can do happiness. I believe that a happy staff, you know, will lift everything in your business. So talking with people about habits that will help their happiness. So that's kind of my thing. I really believe that hospitality can change people's lives, both people who are giving hospitality and receiving it, and boost their bottom line in business. So that's where I'm focusing right now. And it's funny because back to the going to a big name business school and then ending up in such a tiny business. I've had so much experience, and when you have your own business, you wear all the hats. So whether I'm helping a larger property, a branded business, or an independent, smaller business, or just a person that wants to get, move their career forward in hospitality. I've worn all the hats. So I feel like, yeah, I never should doubt my experience, even though I don't come from the corporate world. You know, I've done it all, as they say.
Hmm. Mostly, except for this one. This is the one
Except for which one?
this business here, right? Like
Yes,
you've done all of that, and here you are moving, and that's a really like beautiful thing to see too. That you've done all these other things that most people won't even do in their lifetime. And now here you are, like taking on this new adventure. So, like one of the things that you mentioned, yeah, it's this hospitality piece is very much needed, both like from a bottom line perspective and spreading that generosity because it's a win-win. It's a win-win, right? Like
absolutely,
why wouldn't we want that? And
absolutely.
where do you see a challenge for yourself in terms of like growing this business? Or actually, where do you see yourself like 1 year from now with this business that you're like, hey, I'm in a happy place with this?
Yeah, well, we're in the program, Anthony. I have it all written out anyway, but yeah, just I am making a certain amount of money from my business activities, both with speaking and coaching, consulting, all of that. And hopefully I have amazing clients. I mean, not hopefully. I'll have amazing clients and a team that supports me so I can still travel a bit too. I just really love traveling. So, and traveling to all those godchildren is part of the mix.
Yeah. What is that? 15 different countries.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
And
it just, I mean, yeah.
and if I may here, like you have this plan, right? You have it like visioned out and you have this identity of being lucky, right? In
Yes.
terms of like winning raffles, going on jets, and it's taking that identity and focusing in exactly on this business and
Yeah.
getting exactly like 1 year from now, right? Like in that space where you are working, not hopefully. And I love that you picked that up, Lucy. Like you're like, yeah, no, not hopefully. Yeah, it is gonna happen. Oh, I love that you picked that up, right? So it absolutely is gonna happen, and you're gonna have those amazing clients that resonate with you, and the money that you'll make from that too, and the team that you'll have as well. This is such a great example of like taking what we already have, which is something beautiful, and just and focusing in on something very specific.
Yes.
And yeah, as we're wrapping up here, I want to take a moment to thank you. But before I do that, do you have any like we'll also get to your like your socials and stuff in a moment. But like, do you have any closing thoughts you'd love to share?
Oh, just like I said, just take it, just tiny things and just do them, and keep adding once you get something like kind of in place, embedded. And then the other thing about that, because is that, if like a lot of my TikToks before I've switched more to hospitality in terms of healthy habits and stuff is like, if you do get off track, do not spend any time in blame, shame, and guilt. Just get right back on and know you're going in the right direction. It's just like so important. So yeah, there's plenty of we blamed, shamed, and guilted ourselves to death already. So we don't need to do that anymore. Skip that. Skip
That
it.
part is complete. Yes,
Yes,
exactly.
exactly. Completely. So yeah. I'm on TikTok at Lucy_hospitality. And that's the best place to connect with me at this point. And yeah, we'll leave it at that.
Wonderful, Lucy. And yeah, and we'll put the links here in the description as well. Absolutely. Yeah. Like thank you so much, Lucy. I want to first take a moment and acknowledge you for like meeting with me today. Like I admit the third time that this is the third time that we've like rescheduled, and mostly because of me. So I appreciate you for being flexible and being patient. That's
Always.
Thank you, thank you. And I also want to thank you for everything that you are doing. It's one of the most fundamental things I picked up from today was that, you could not be doing the work that you're doing and sharing your gifts, sharing that hospitality, that you can transform hospitality where it's both good for like the bottom line and for generosity, where we're building a better world with love, with connection, and you could just be chilling, on the cruise that you are, which you are, but you're also taking the time to do this, and I want to acknowledge you for that,
Thank you.
and the world is a much better place with you doing it. So yeah, please keep going. Please keep going.
Well, and back at you, Anthony, what you're doing is really, really important. So I'm really glad to know you and thank you for the opportunity to share more and get to know each other better.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like you're most welcome, and absolutely. Final question for you is, how are you? And it's not the grocery starter question answer, but you can answer it how you like.
I mean, right this second, I'm in a growing place. I feel so happy to be alive, and I also have concern for our world. And I feel very grateful for the opportunities I have in my life to be on a cruise right now, but also that I have the passion to keep going and to keep trying to connect with people and connect people together so that we can have an even more caring, kind world. It's just really important. And I'm glad that I have the opportunity, and I'm glad that I'm taking the opportunity. I'm proud of myself for doing that. Yeah. I feel we each and every one of us have so much power as our unique human expression in this universe. And the more we can embrace that, the better. And I just feel lucky that I'm doing that.
That's the best way to end. I have nothing more to say as well. Oh, thank you. Thank you everyone for joining us as well. We'll see you soon.